Hello again, and welcome back to analyzing the Magnus Protocol. It's been a little bit of a hiatus since the last time like a couple months, month and a half sort of deal. But I just remembered Protocol's coming out tomorrow as of me recording this for at least us, the Patreon people. Whereas it'll be out on the 3rd of July for the public. So I figured, oh no, I should catch up on the 4 episodes I haven't recorded or done anything with. So that's what this is. I've, for some reason, been procrastinating a lot of these off, and I don't really know why. I enjoy making the videos, but I guess with that out of the way, if you do enjoy these analyzing videos, subscribe, put on notifications. I won't say there will be more. No, there will be more now that the Act 2 of Season 2 will be coming out very soon, and I'm kind of excited. Which is what got me to actually get off my ass and do this. Regardless, please enjoy. We are starting off with Magnus Protocol Episode 37, Scrutiny. This one written by Alexander J. Newell. As always, probably edited by Sims as well, that whole sort of shtick. So, we hear tape recorder click on as per usual, as Sam is still in the London exclusion zone little outpost. And Georgie meets with him, tells him he's technically free to go, but as he's not really counted as a danger anymore. He's technically free to go as long as he has an escort with him until the archivist problem is dealt with. And Georgie says Sam is free to stay with her and her better half, Melanie, but they rather shouldn't be late because Melanie is not a people person like Georgie is. And this is when the tape recorder cuts and we get a guest actor, Jennifer Austin as Ash Pines. And we get into that, a sort of ruined area which is hinted at and assumed to be in the London exclusion zone. This person that we meet is confronted by the archivist. In a literal instant, this person, Ash, is enthralled by the archivist, begging it to observe her in, "Oh, watcher, please see me again," sort of stuff. She speaks almost prayer-like when she begs the watcher to "Oh, see me again." And she says, "Send me back to my fear." In an instant then, she starts monologuing a statement about herself. And it's very cool. The archivist, we actually get very clear words from the archivist that tells her to speak, and then we get transitioned into that statement.
To go back, I need to be seen again.
So, Ash quotes her parents, listing flaws they used to describe and belittle her that she overheard, calling her fat and ugly, really horrible shit. And despite the extreme insulting language, Ash appeared more focused on the fact that she'd been observed. She proceeds to describe events of the day, beginning at her home, where the morning news on TV are discussing how stupid she looked in PE yesterday, and interviewing her teacher who claims it's time for the government to take action while Ash takes notes. At breakfast, Ash attempts to salvage a piece of moldy bread, however, upon seeing her mother's reaction, throws it away, stating, "I shouldn't be eating carbs anyway." Ash misses the school bus, so has to walk, which she does not mind as it is exercise. In her rush to get to school, she trips over a flagstone, at which point she is laughed by others, like always, she claims. Billboards in the area show fast food advertisements starring Ash consuming large amounts of food. Previously, the billboards advertised cosmetic surgery, with Ash's face as a before picture. A group of children near the advertisement make pig noises at her, to which she attempts to join in. Once at school, the teachers ignore her, which seemed to upset Ash significantly more than any other insults earlier in the day. She wishes that they could notice her, and begins to insult herself directly, claiming not to deserve the attention, and then being shown to the class as a primitive hominid She worries about how her classmates see her and begins to laugh and cry. In science class, they are dissecting frogs, and Ash is being literally poked and stabbed by one of her classmates, and the teacher blames Ash for distracting this kid Miles. And then she thinks the frog looks like her, and she begins to stab and aggressively cut at it. She is forced to clean up the mess and misses lunch as a consequence. In French class, she sits at the front but does not recognize any of the other students, who apparently recognize her, whispering to one another. Once realizing that she is in the wrong class, she runs out, embarrassed. And as the home time bell rings, she feels exhausted and thinks that she should walk home, but it's cold and she is missing a shoe, as 2 other students took it and threw it over the fence, at which she blames herself for. The bus is full of people who are all on their phones watching video of Ash falling down the stairs. She laughs with them and claims that it's important to let people know that you can laugh at yourself every once in a while. And then when she gets home, she remembers that it is parents' night, in which they need to discuss what is wrong with her alone. She skips eating dinner and tries to do homework, but eventually gets distracted by the TV. And she watches one of those like funniest home video shows, in which one time when she broke her leg playing tennis, and the audience laughs, and she's not surprised that they all find it funny, wondering how anyone manages to break a leg playing tennis. She then returns to her bedroom staring at the ceiling, and she puts off her like sort of nightly routine, being too distracted, concentrating on the like party going down the street. The party is watching some of her most embarrassing moments, like her dropping a cymbal at a concert. She says that that video is particularly popular at the moment. And as she falls asleep, she considers herself lucky, saying that all she wants is to be seen. During this last bit, she begins to mumble on as the archivist tells her to dream, and Ash assumably dies, and the tape recorder eventually clicks off after a few moments. So Sam and Melanie are in their kitchen, and Sam asks Melanie if they need a hand, and Melanie is like, in my own house, really? And he's like, oh yeah, my bad. Sam apologizes, and Melanie says that she has a heavier cane for smartasses. And then we have Melanie offering Sam tea, and Sam is like, oh yeah, I'll take milk and 1 sugar, please. And Melanie says, we have hot or cold tea. Sam asks for the hot tea, and Melanie begins to ask about his alternate dimension. Sam essentially asks what happened to London, why is it like this? Melanie gives a very, brief, dumbed-down version of essentially the world ended, which, not horribly wrong. Basically, a ritual caused by supernatural entities made the world into a hungered fear state, and as suddenly as it, happened, it left. They also begin to mention the Magnus Institute, with Sam saying that his burned down back in 99, while this one was the cause of this world event, and that gets Sam to be like, oh, so that's what they're up to with the children experiment things and alchemy. And Melanie's just, what the fuck are you talking about? Melanie continues to explain that nowadays the whole event is referred to as the London incursion, as London in the Panopticon was seen from all around the world, so everyone kind of knows that this is kind of London's fault. And how basically the sky turned into just this massive eye that's watching it all as everyone wakes up in their own personal hell. And Sam, asks Melanie, and is like, oh, okay, what was your hell like? And Melanie's like, that's not really a question you should go around asking people. Bit of a personal question. And then she says how her and Georgie were kind of unseen from the eye because Melanie is blind and Georgie can't feel fear. But how for some people it was different. Some people were the tortured. The majority were the tortured, and there were some people who were doing the torturing. And she goes on saying that very few people actually knew what was going on, and that when it suddenly ended, everyone was placed exactly where they were before, which caused a lot of chaos, especially for those who were maybe in planes or in the middle of surgery she continues to explain that essentially governments collapsed and major cities were like either flooded or collapsed in on themselves. Many people think that when it ended, that caused a lot more deaths than the incursion itself, which is interesting. And Sam asks if, their Magnus Institute had anything to do with alchemy. Melanie basically says no, it was just sitting around doing paperwork. And then Georgie comes in very frustrated that another civilian was killed, likely by the archivist. Melanie instantly asks, is it him? Georgie responding with, if it really is him, he's gone off the deep end and he needs to be taken care of. They do have a little conversation of like, if it's not him, it could maybe be some other avatar, which is cool. But Sam suggests that maybe the archivist is looking for him, because the archivist didn't really get a whole like statement case out of Sam to begin with, so it might be like inadvertently looking for him or this world's Sam. And they all agree that it's not really a bad idea until Melanie, tells Sam to shut up, and it is silent, and she's listening for a moment, and she finds the tape recorder and smashes it, ending this episode. So lots of cool stuff this episode. Seeing Melanie is really cool. Hearing more about what really happened after the incursion, the apocalypse, with most people thinking more people actually died because it ended rather than the people who were in it. But that was Mag Protocol 37 scrutiny. So let's move on to 38, circling back. This one with a guest writer by the name of Amber DeVox. I have no idea if that's how you pronounce it, but also written by Johnny Sims. We hear landline open up to assumably Celia's phone as she calls out to Alice, poking fun, saying that, oh, it looks like you got a head start, commenting on the broken door of Colin's apartment, to which Alice is basically saying, well, I wanted to make sure we could grab anything we could before landlords threw it out, which makes sense. Alice basically tells her to like, hey, help me bag shit up, or, if there's anything about like portals, other dimensions, throw that in the bag. Celia saying that she doesn't think whatever's going on with Freddy is related to what happened to Sam, and basically saying that they shouldn't assume everything bad happening is connected, which is just a bullshit statement. Alice starts to get a little frustrated, saying that she's already lost 2 friends, she doesn't want to lose anyone else. Celia, then helps her look for some stuff, saying that there's a lot of chemical paperwork, formulas, stuff like that, various equations, and specifically symbols for lead, zinc, sulfur, and phosphorus. She doesn't really understand how that is relevant or useful to what Alice is doing, but she says that they'll probably figure it out. The landline turns off and a computer boots up in the OIR. We hear Gwen, lovely Gwen, telling Alice that you're behind on your caseload. You haven't really done much of your caseload. And Alice, as usual, tells Gwen to piss off, flips her off, and continues rummaging through Colin's notes. She says that it seems Freddy was made in the late 80s, early 90s, and believes that the original programmer might have been a man named Frederick, and that Colin seemed to be trying to find more about this Frederick from a person named Heinrich Unheimlich. Gwen saying that the word Unheimlich just means like creepy or weird in German, and that it's not really a name. And Alice is like, well, this is what Colin seems to be calling this guy. And Gwen just stops talking, and she just leaves Alice saying to, keep me informed on what you're doing. And then the ratty old boy Chester starts piping in. Basically, he starts reading what is like a form of like a diary. So, on Friday the 13th, of March of 1992, about a young girl and a boring trip to Berlin with sad buildings and sad old people and boring walks, and that this little girl's bored. Then on Saturday, the 14th of March, the young girl says it's not that bad being in Berlin, saying that her mom took her to Instrument Museum in a park near the Tiergarten. At the museum with the instruments, She says she saw a man, and this man came up to her mom with a small box that he had tightly wrapped in his hands, and said that he had big cat-like eyes. Then the man and the mom started having a conversation in German, but the little girl didn't really understand German that well. The girl then starts calling the man Mr. Cat Eyes, and Mr. Cat Eyes moves the box towards the mom, and she denies it, but the Mr. Catman insists her to take the box, and she eventually does. And opening the box reveals a cute little wooden carousel, but it's not horses like a normal carousel, it's pigs. The girl notices that her mom looks off staring at the little wooden carousel, and then as they're walking through Tiergarten with the box, the little girl notices that she sees an animal in the bushes, but it's not an animal, it's just Mr. Cat Eyes in a bush. Monday, the 16th of March, the girl and the mom make it home from Berlin, and the mom puts the carousel on their little kitchen table, and the girl notes that it doesn't spin, it doesn't make music, or it doesn't really do anything. And she eventually moves it to her windowsill in the little girl's room. And later she notices that the little pigs aren't pink and white anymore like they had been when they first opened the box, but rather they look like they have been burnt. They are more red and black and charred. The next day, the little girl says how it started making music, the carousel, and they started spinning, and she woke up in late at night, and the pig started oinking very sad and angry and when she went to go pick it up, it suddenly stopped. That morning, she, talked to the mom about it, asking if her mom heard anything, to which she didn't. The next day, the little girl writes how the similar thing happened to the last night, but when she went to confront the pigs, and the pigs' teeth are now red and dripping with this liquid, or presumably blood. And then on the center of the carousel, there are also these pictures of sad people. And then the little girl has very weird idea. She goes and grabs her mom's German phrase book, and she begins to speak at it in German. And it doesn't do anything at first until the pigs stop spinning, and it starts singing a nursery rhyme.
Heinrich, unheimlich wirst du mit mir spielen. Heinrich, unheimlich bist du in den Dielen. Heinrich, unheimlich, oh bist du in Sicht. Heinrich, unheimlich ist mein Elternlied.
And when it's done singing this nursery rhyme, it began to shake, and the sad people begin to scream. Reaching their hands towards the top of the carousel. And okay, so it was then when this dark red liquid started to seep from the pigs' mouths. And before it made too much of a mess, the girl tried to pick it up, and everything stopped. And then during the day, she tells the mom what happened, and the mom is very concerned. She asked the girl if they want to get rid of the carousel. The girl says yes, and they get rid of it. The mom says that she won't be gone for too long to go get rid of it, and then very disturbing thing happens next. The mom said to if the girl got scared, to call her, and that she'd be back right away. She's been gone a long time. I got hungry, so I made myself a ham sandwich, but I think I did it wrong because it tasted wrong. I hope mom comes back soon. And then the statement just fucking ends there. Jesus. I remember listening to that for the first time, and it was just whiplash of just, ugh, that's disturbing. As soon as the statement ends, it's just silence for a moment, and we hear just chair leaning back, and it's Alice, and she's just okay. And then the computer clicks off, and we get turned on to a CCTV, and the camera focuses as Alice, Celia, and Gwen are talking to each other. Alice says she wanted to have a private chat away from any nosy PCs. Haha. Funny. Bold of you to assume. Freddy can't hear you always. She says that Freddy essentially responded to her saying Heinrich unheimlich, talking to Gwen beforehand and then immediately giving a case in which that is brought up, which is interesting. Alice says she wants to go investigate things in Berlin, as Colin had notes to meet this Heinrich unheimlich in Berlin, and she wants to go there in Colin's place. Gwen, agrees to the plan, surprisingly enough, but but says that Alice is hiding something, and she is. She says Heinrich and Heimlich could be an external, which shuts that plan down pretty much. Alice says that she thinks she would be okay because Heinrich und Heimlich only goes after children and parents, maybe, possibly. Gwen then agrees to, okay, you can do this, but we're gonna set up some sort of security thing, to go with Alice. And later, in her office, we get a little voice cameo by a person named Katie Satan as a receptionist, as Gwen calls Starkwall Security Services, and asks for Brett Lars, the bastard we met a few episodes ago. And she tells the receptionist to, hey, tell Brett I think it's due for a trial run. And then episode cuts there. This is another great episode leading into the penultimate and the final of the, Act 1. Heinrich und Heimlich, very interested in that. Going to see what Colin was up to before he got, broken down. Other interesting thing, as soon as Alice and, Gwen were talking about, Heinrich und Heimlich, Freddy gave her the sort of a relevant piece of information to all that, which is interesting, because it could be whatever malevolent being Freddy is, or maybe Colin giving a hint from the inside. Who knows? But that was Mag Protocol episode 38. Circling back, we'll be talking about the next two next time soon, hopefully, please. Again, leave your comments on any things you think of, have thoughts below, before Act 2 starts of Season 2, which I'm very excited for. And I will see you all covering 39 and 40.